Hey y'all, I want to talk about a topic tonight that we're all familiar with, that we maybe talk about, we maybe even increasingly more comfortable talking about it. Um, but we might be talking about it more in these intellectual, concrete ways, like we understand signs and symptoms. We might understand coping strategies even. I think it's still a hard topic though to talk about in more personal, open, vulnerable ways, and that topic is depression. So I'd like to take a few minutes and talk about it tonight. And for those of you watching who may be experiencing depression, I want you to hear that you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. It can feel so lonely because depression can feel so lonely and you can feel so withdrawn from others and maybe even yourself. Maybe you're distracting yourself, maybe you're numbing yourself, and therefore you feel distant from not just others. Maybe you feel distant from things you used to enjoy. Maybe you feel just kind of like detached in a lot of ways, even from yourself. That can feel so isolating that it is easy to feel like nobody else is feeling this feeling. And we forget in those moments and in that reality of feeling so lonely that this is a shared experience. But you aren't alone and there is help out there. So please reach out to somebody if you are feeling those things. Just sharing that experience can relieve so much of the tension and pain and distress that goes with depression. Um, in the effort of destigmatizing depression, I want to share openly that this is not something I just talk about as a clinician. This is something that is personal to me. I also have struggled with depression, and so I really do understand that sense of feeling like this is just this eternal feeling of stuckness, so to speak, right? So I really do get that. Um, and just a couple of extra things to think about. One, depression might not look how we think it's going to look. So we might be accustomed to thinking about it as looking like isolation and withdrawal and some of the things I've mentioned, right? Loneliness, sadness, melancholy. We might understand it in that way, but we might not recognize it if it is looking different than that. It might look more like irritability and agitation and frustration. And so it might present in different ways to ourselves, and it might change and fluctuate as well. The other piece is sometimes anxiety is a piece of this too. We can certainly feel both, have experiences of feeling some depression and depressive symptoms, and we can also simultaneously have symptoms of anxiety and worry and stress. And so maybe there's even like bouts of productivity, and that might cause us to believe like, hey, it's not that bad. I mean, I'd get help if it were worse, but I had this productive moment, therefore I don't want to get any help. I'm going to be fine, that kind of stuff. And so we might even mask this not just to others, but to ourselves, that we're really struggling. And I want to really encourage you. There is no shame in this struggle. If you're kind of headed down that shame spiral for various reasons, including feeling some sense of shame about feeling these feelings, I really hope that you can hear how normal it is to experience this and how much help is out there. So with relationships, we think of the four horsemen of relationships that maybe are struggling, and I think there are these three horsemen of depression that I want to address, so that we're kind of talking about a few things that I think can make depression even more maybe paralyzing and even dangerous, that I hope you can be on the lookout for. Those are feelings of helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness. If you are starting to feel like, hey, I'm too far gone, there's no way anyone can help me, I am stuck in this, and there is no help either being offered or that would be effective, I promise there is. Secondly, if you are starting to feel hopeless, like, hey, there's nothing around that corner. I cannot see around that corner to any kind of light, any kind of hope, any kind of dream. Recognize that sense of hopelessness and as a sign that maybe the depression is either worsening or feeling really hard. And finally, I think the hardest part, or a really hard part of depression, are feelings and thoughts of worthlessness. One of the reasons is those are often distorted, untrue thoughts that might look something like, I am too worthless for friendship. I'm not worthy of good things in my life. Maybe we even tell ourselves, I am not worthy of love. And one of the most important things we can do is begin to confront those distorted thoughts, begin to address these belief systems that are pulling us down even further. And I'm here to tell you, one, I promise there is help out there. There is help out there. So if you have an established relationship with a therapist, call that person back. If you need to establish a relationship with a therapist, take that step. Or maybe you want to call a close friend or a family member who you know you can trust and be vulnerable with. Share that experience, because then you start to realize there is help out there. I can get help for this. Hopefulness. I promise there is hope out there. It may just take the tiniest flicker of a light to begin to light that darkened path for you. But I promise there's hope. And finally, if you are watching this, you are a cherished, precious, important human being who is worthwhile. So, thank you for listening. Good night.